So good afternoon traders, and welcome to another technical analysis update. And today is the 10th of June 2022, and I'll try and do this technical analysis before the New York session opens, just in an attempt to preempt the volatility incoming because of the CPI. But anyway, let me just double check and do the usual checks that everything's working here. For the audio is working, and I think the video is working too. So just a second. So we start off here with the cryptocurrency heat map. You can see that the great majority of it is in the red, some are neutral, and very few are in the green. But generally speaking, everything is kind of going sideways. And perhaps threatening to go down. If you look at the stock market heat map, you can see that the great majority of it is in the red, and this is again just basically a rebalance of the inventory just before the volatility, which is due in a couple of hours. Well, in actually about an hour. Due to that CPI print. So let's have a look here on the calendar. The CPI print comes out at 1:30 p.m. That's what, 12:30 UTC time. So that's around about 1.5 hours. Historically, I do think that the CPI print does come out just before the meeting, so it's possible that we see some volatility before that. So we could see it in the next sort of half an hour to an hour. But why is the CPI important? I'm not an expert. But basically, this is the consumer price print, and consumer price really kind of like is accounts for a great majority of inflation. So this is the inflation print, and basically, you know, it's going to tell us if the Fed is doing enough, or if it's going to come out with the expected rate, or if, you know, they have to raise interest rates to accommodate inflation or to try and contain inflation, and that's why this matters basically. So that's the long and the short of it. You can see here on the right the expected rates. The expected rates forecast are around about 0.7%. So anything higher than that would perhaps be good for currency, good for the dollar, but not so good for the rest of the assets such as Bitcoin. Anything lower than that then is better than predicted, and of course it would be good for the S&P and crypto and everything else. So let's move on to the charts, just really because this is kind of like basically just a catalyst for the volatility. It's, you know, it's really difficult to try and predict what's going to happen, but one thing that I will say is that perhaps it's wise to either remove your positions or to reduce risk on your positions and trade with smaller size, because higher volatility means that the price can whipsaw very, very quickly and kick you out of your positions regardless. So let's move on to the charts and start with the S&P. And last night you could see already, this is the 3-day chart on the top left hand corner. Let's start with the daily chart here, make it a little bit bigger. You can see that we tapped resistance there. We couldn't get above the quarterly VWAP, and then we kind of broke through this level of resistance here, which is basically support here, which is basically the edge of this high volume cluster, as you can see here, right? And once we've broke through that, we're kind of like basically in this void, right? So there's a little void here in terms of volume. And because there's, you know, the price is traveling very quickly through there. So now this really is the line in the sand, like I said to you guys all week. This yellow line here, orange line, is line in the sand because it's basically the edge of this high volume cluster. So the HVE, okay, so the higher edge of this high volume cluster. So basically breaking below this means that we're almost certainly going to get stuck below it. However, because of this volatility, we could do something like this, tap lower, get rejected, and then come and revisit this level here, right? And if this level here, basically this was support, it could turn to resistance again, right? So we could see volatility to the downside, volatility to the upside, and then still come all the way back down. Or we could just smash straight through that and regain acceptance back in this balance area and maybe even test this higher level here. So it's, like I said, it's difficult to predict. There's no point in trying to predict it. What we do know is that obviously it's going to cause volatility, so just have to keep an eye on that. So basically we've got two high volume clusters here, and we're at an imbalance right now. Okay, so we're right here in the middle, right? So basically we need to know what's going to happen, and this is basically a leading indicator, if you like. This will tell us what will happen. Okay, if we get stuck below here, then we're going to go much lower. If we manage to get back above this previous level of support, then I think we're going to go much higher. And of course, with Bitcoin being closely correlated to the S&P, I think that is important to keep an eye on this. Okay, it's not just the S&P, it's the Nasdaq as well. But before I go on to that, let's just have a look here on the 4-hour. So you can see here basically that we were rotating sideways inside of this range, which is basically this volume cluster here, right? And once we've, this is tapering volume, so the price accelerates to the bottom. Now we found a little bit of balance here. So as you can see, there's a couple of low volume nodes there. So it depends if we kind of rotate here, tap this lower here, and then get rejected and get back above balance, which would almost certainly mean that we're going to test this level here, the green line. Or if we go below it and then cannot get back above it and confirm that this is indeed resistance now, then like I said, we're going to go much lower. So those basically are the lines in the sand, if you like, just below 4,000 points. Okay, at the moment, the real resistance is around about 4,200 points. Okay, and this intermediary level of resistance is round about 4,080. Okay, so we need to reclaim that in order to regain this balance area here. So that's basically a key point here, the green line. As you can see, this was previous support. We broke down, confirmed it as resistance. Here was resistance, we broke above it, confirmed it as support, and now here we are, we've broken below it again. So we need to reclaim this in order to have any chance of going back up again and continue the bear market rally. Or if we cannot break above it, then of course the bear market will continue. That was it for bear market rally, and we continue much lower. So that's what I see here on the S&P. We'll have to keep an eye on that. On the Nasdaq is very much the same picture, but perhaps not as ominous. And I'll do it here again on the daily chart. As you can see, we had resistance, support, right? We broke above it, confirmed that the previous level of resistance now turned to support, and now we've broken down from it. So it's not quite as ominous. It doesn't look, quite as bad, as this is a previous level of support here. And we've got a high volume cluster there. So what remains to be seen is, will we bounce on this line here and then go back up? And if we do, can we reclaim this level here to regain balance, just like I explained on the S&P? Or are we going to break down below it and then confirm that this level here is resistance now, and so we go much lower? Okay, so that's a possibility as well. Okay, so around about 11,500 points. That's what I see on the charts. There's no real sort of like indication of what's going to happen. I'm not an expert in this field, so I just kind of look at what the chart is telling me, and basically the chart's telling me that we're kind of like either retesting support or we're going to break down much lower because of the fear in the markets. Okay, so I think this is basically just an inventory adjustment. There's people just kind of like getting out of their positions because of the volatility that is incoming, and it could be just potentially a good opportunity to buy, but we'll have to wait and see. Okay, there's no point of trying to predict the price, but at least you've got some levels there, of course. Okay, so here on the 4-hour chart, as you can see, it's a little bit closer, very much the same situation as we saw on the S&P, previous level of resistance. Okay, we came back, we tapped support, we broke above here. There's a low volume area here, which is basically why I highlighted this as potential support. Okay, this is previous resistance here. You can see, try to break above it. Eventually we broke above it, but we've not retested it. So we could potentially see just a retest of this area here and then go higher again. But I don't know how it's going to happen and how violent these moves are going to be. So again, like I said, it's potentially better just to stay on the sidelines and just observe this. Okay, so unless you're a degenerate and you really like trading volatility. So anyway, with that in mind, you got some levels there that could potentially make a difference for your observations, but the key thing is that we reclaim this level here and regain balance way up here. Okay, so that's basically the key thing, and that's round about, was that 12,550 points. Okay, so we want to regain this level here in order to be kind of like a little bit more bullish. Of course, if we get below it and we cannot reclaim the previous levels of support, then obviously that's indicating bearish momentum. One thing that I have noticed from these CPI prints and big meetings with the Federal Reserve is that the initial move is always one to be faded, okay, or almost every time. So basically, if this goes up first, then it almost certainly that's the wrong move, okay? That's basically just kind of like running the stops, if you like, and then it continues lower. Same thing is, same could be said for the opposite. So if it goes down first, it's almost certainly the wrong move, and then if we reclaim back the range, that means that it's almost certainly going up. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see. At the moment, we've got a little flag limit here that's acting as support, so we could just tap here lower, right? That would be the wrong move, and then the key thing is that we reclaim this level. Okay, if we reclaim this, then a strong possibility that we go much higher. But like I said, these are like sort of like dangerous plays, if you like. It's much better just to wait for that confirmation and just let the dust settle down. So with that out of the way, let's move on to Bitcoin and start here with the 3-day chart. And I just wanted to highlight something. We're still very much at the lows here, right? So, you could argue, you could see these 2 wicks to the upside. I've got a little, I've got the weekly levels, and you can see that we've tapped the weekly levels to the upside here. Basically, this here, right? Which is the low of this order block. And we've got a weekly order block here highlighted in red, right? And we've tapped that twice now, okay? We've tapped that twice, and twice we got rejected. Okay, so that's the bearish kind of outlook on it, if you like, from a higher time frame perspective. It's perhaps a little bit clearer like that. So on the weekly chart, it's very clear to see that we've tested it twice now, this area of supply, and twice we got rejected. So potentially what it could mean is that we go and test lower levels, right? And you can see that there's hardly any volume there. There's basically big gaps in volume. There is a little bit of a cluster here around about sort of 23,000, $22,000, okay. But the higher cluster of volume is around about here, around about 20,000, something like that. Okay, so that's potentially what we're seeing here on the lower time frames. If we do see a great big dump to the downside, if there's any nasty surprises coming out of CPI index, that's basically, don't try and catch a knife, because that's basically where we could be heading. Okay, that's the bearish case scenario. However, I like to put on these volume zones, and you can see basically I'm looking at these. Let me just take the VWAP off. I'm looking at these higher volume clusters for potential areas of balance, right? So you can see basically somewhere between $25,000 and $22,000 or $21,000 is the next level of support. We've already tapped it once here, okay, and we got rejected there. That's usually a good sign. So there's obviously liquidity here. So if we do come down, then I think somewhere between 25 and 21,000 could be a potential area of balance, okay. However, if we manage to get back above 31,200 and find acceptance there, something like this, then I think we've got a good chance of revisiting these levels around about 40k. So there is more nuances to that on the shorter time frame, so I'll show you that now. And we move on to the I suppose we could look at the 12-hour chart, or the daily chart here on Bybit. Okay, so let's have a look at that here. You can see that we got a very sort of low volume here to the upside. Okay, somewhere between 32k and 36k. We are testing the value area low of the current for the developing quarterly VWAP here. We've retested it a couple of times, right? So this could potentially be support. So now I'm doing the case for the bulls. If we do rally from here and we manage to break above that 32k level of resistance, then from 32 to 36k, 35,000, something like that, where this quarterly VWAP is, there's hardly any volume, low volume cluster there. So the price will travel very quickly through that, just like it did here, right? So you just have to bear in mind that this could be quite explosive. However, this level here at 32k is still resistance until proven otherwise. Okay, $31,000, $32,000. Again, looking at the smaller time frames, so you can see that we're basically inside the value area low of the quarterly VWAP. We're also inside the second standard deviation of the yearly VWAP here, right? Basically above that. We're above the quarterly, and we're rotational between the weekly here on the bottom left hand corner and the monthly here on the bottom right hand corner. Okay, so let me just take this range thing off, fixed range, so that you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so we can look for confluent levels now. Just take that off, take that off. We'll sync all of this. Okay, so this basically down here is an important level of support, right? Around about 28,400. Okay, so you can see that this level here lines up on the top left hand corner. It lines up with the second standard deviation of the yearly VWAP. Okay, it's just below the value area low of the quarterly VWAP. It also has perfect confluence here on the 4-hour chart. You can see I've got the monthly VWAP. So this is basically the value area low of the previous month's VWAP here. Okay, that's basically where this rectangle is highlighted here. So you can see that. I'm going to delete this just so you can see it better. You can see it, there it is. Right? So that's, you know, it's an important level. You can see all of these, all of the confluence around about 28,400, right? With all these really important key levels. Okay, of course we could go a little bit lower, but you know what I'm trying to say is that we, you know, this, I'm going to look at the 4-hour chart. I'm going to explain it to you. This here is an important level, not just because it's so much confluence, but you can see that basically everybody that's long in this area here will have their stops in very obvious places. Okay, and the obvious place, where will it be? It'll be around about here somewhere. Okay, so with potential volatility to the upside and to the downside, you can see that we could come all the way down here, take out all of these stops, and then bounce on this key level and then get back up again, right? So that's one possibility, but there's no way, from my previous observations, that these guys that went long and all of these people that are long from around about 30k level are just, you know, this is not going to rally without taking those stops before. It's just, I doubt it very much. Okay, so that's basically what I see. So even if we do see, like I said, the first move to the downside first, I would see that as an opportunity to buy, but it'll be with very small size because there's a possibility that this carries on going down, right? So it'll only be a partial entry, but I'll definitely be buying at these lows, around about 28,400. Okay, actually perhaps even a little bit lower, and I'll show you that. I think I've already showed you guys on Wednesday. 27,500, there's a naked volume point of control down there. So 27,500, 28,500, something like that is potentially a good area to enter longs. Okay, so what I'm looking for really is a tap of these lows in order for us to go higher. Okay, on the other hand, let me just delete this a second. On the other hand, everybody that's short from up here will have their stops somewhere up here, right? Okay, potentially these guys have probably already been taken out, or the ones that got trapped up here would have had a chance to get out at break even when we came back up, right? So I'm more interested in this level here, right? So anybody that's trapped up here, we can't wait to get out at break even because of all this fuckery with like nice big candles like that. Yes, we've had a tap already to the upside. Okay, so potentially most of them would have come out, but anybody that's short from up here will have their stops up here. So if the CPI print comes out sort of like negative and we see some volatility to the upside first, that's the level that I expect it, around about 32k, like I said, right? Low volume area here, right? 32k, tap that and then continue down. So we'll just have to wait and see. That this could play in many, many ways, and that's why I'm saying if the price does whipsaw, right, it could go up, it could go down like that, and then just still carry on in the middle. So potentially the best thing to do is just to stay out, right, and just observe. But of course, if we break down, there's hardly any volume to the downside, right? Look at that here. Right, as you can see here, the volume profile on the right, there's just hardly any volume there, right? This here is just, this is just crap. Okay, so a tiny little volume cluster there, tiny little volume cluster there, and a bigger one here around about 20,000. But this is a big gap in volume here. So the price will travel very quickly through there. Similarly, on the lower time frames, you can see that basically it's the same thing between 32K and 35K, right? So you can see it here on the daily chart, right? So if we break above 32K around about here, look at this, there's hardly any volume there. So the price will travel very quickly to the upside. So this could make for a very volatile afternoon today. So we'll just have to wait and see. At the moment, we're kind of just ranging. As you can see here on the 4-hour chart, the range is still prevailing. And we're very much just going sideways here. We've tapped some deviations to the upside. We've kind of had a few deviations to the downside, but nothing significant. And like I said, I do expect these guys here to get tapped out, right, and get these stops run before before any serious move to the upside. I could be completely wrong, of course, and it just leaves everybody behind and it just goes up. But like I said, you know, we'll have to wait and see how it plans out. Personally, what I'm looking for shorts at this high here, okay, and I'm looking for longs down here, but very reduced size and with controlled risk. Okay, so basically a few tight stops and I'll be observing this like a hawk, right? If we break above 32K, then I'll be very quick to flip biased and I'll be going long. Okay, and I'll be targeting, like I said, 36K. Similarly, here, if we come to the downside, break these key levels at 27,500 and then cannot get back above it again, okay, and confirm that this is now indeed resistance, then I'll be very quickly to flip bias as well, and I'll be going short, and I'll be targeting those levels down there around about 25, 21K or whatever it was, right? So that's basically how I see this happening. So, other than that, we could just carry on just ranging, okay? But one interesting thing that I saw, that's basically a guy, RJ from Kilmex, shout out to RJ. There's not many on Twitter that I listen to, but RJ is definitely one of them. He's an OG, he's been here for a very, very long time. And he highlighted something here, the 30-day rolling VWAP, okay? So you can see here the 30-day rolling VWAP has a good record, especially when you put some standard deviations. I'll leave that for another time. I just wanted to highlight here how the price always kind of comes back, retests it, and bounces from there, right? Once we get below it, we retest it, and we stay to the downside. As you can see here, it's highlighted red, right? So basically, it happened here the last time. Basically, when we got below that 30-day rolling VWAP, that was basically in April, beginning of April, and we were around about $44,000 back then. Okay, since then we've just been below it the whole time, right? We had a little deviation here above, couldn't hold it. As you can see here, we couldn't hold it. We fell back below it. Deviations here, and we're basically just whipsawing around this area, right? But we are finally above it, right? And the price is consolidating just above that level, right? So that rolling VWAP is sitting right now around about $29,750. Okay, so if the price is now reclaimed this, and even if we see a little bit of volatility to the downside, and it bounces here, then this is a good sort of like a good indicator, if you like, to say that this could be going a lot higher. Will it go all the way to 37,000 or 35,000 or whatever? Who knows, right? But there's potentially an area of interest here. However, again, if we get below this again, then, that was just another deviation, right? This will carry on down and we can see much lower prices. But it's just an observation. Like I said, I listen to this guy usually, and it is the first time since April that we are above it, and we've tested it a couple of times now and confirmed this as support. You can see the long wicks here every time it tested it, right? So this is an interesting thing, and again, thanks RJ for pointing this out. This is something to look at. Sometimes we miss the macro and we miss like zooming out and looking at these more simple tools, if you like, but this is definitely an area of interest now. And if we cannot break below it, and if indeed we do not take out any of these stops, right, and we just bounce straight there, then I think that's very, very strong for Bitcoin. However, like I said, we could do a little wick to the downside like this very, very quickly. but I'm not bearish if this reclaims straight back up again and gets above that VWAP, if that makes any sense. So basically this area here has to be bid really, really quick. All right, so that's basically just an observation. And again, this RJ's observation, not mine. But like I said, I pay attention to this guy. So that's basically what I'm seeing here on Bitcoin. Like I said, and I want to repeat that, I am interested in buying around about here, 28,400, something like that. And all the way to 27,500, because there is a naked volume pointer control that I will show you guys in just a second. But for now, that's basically the only place I'm interested in buying. Okay, unless we break above 32k with conviction, and we do something like this, and then confirm that 32k is now support, then I'll be interested in buying as well. When we break out the range and confirm that the resistance is now support, that's an SR flip, and I'll be interested in buying there, and I'll be targeting 35k. But ideally, the best short really is down there. So I'm going to sort of like make it really easy for you guys, right? And I've got a little setup here. So what's the ideal short? The ideal short position is something like this, right? We basically come up to the highs here, confirm that 32k, 33k or whatever is indeed resistance, and we go much lower, okay? Potentially to the bottom of the range, or even lower, right? That's the ideal short, and that would take out all of the stops above this range. Okay, the ideal long is exactly the opposite. We'd basically come back lower, take out all of the stops here, test at 27,000, 27,500, and then go at least to the top of the range, potentially even higher. Okay, especially if we're hovering at resistance. Okay, so we'll just have to wait and see. This you could adjust this slightly like this, and this would make even more sense if we come back low, take out all the stops of these guys here that are long, right, and then smash straight through the top of the range, confirm that the top of the range that was previous resistance is now support, and that means that I will be flipping long and go higher again. Okay, so basically, like I said, the trick really is kind of like waiting for confirmation and just seeing how it plays out, but at least you know more or less what the idea is, right? So at the top, do we fail? That's a short. At the bottom, do we fail to take it lower? That's a long. Okay, so again, what are the bears trying to do? What are the bulls trying to do? And are they being successful at it? Okay, so the bears here are trying to push the price down. Are they being successful, or did the price go back into the range? If they failed to push the price lower, then obviously it's bullish. And the opposite is true for the short, okay? Are the bulls trying to push the price up? Are they successful? If they're not successful and the price falls back inside the range, then we're going to go much lower. Okay, so that's basically what we could expect here on Bitcoin. So let's have a look at Exocharts and see if we find any more sort of data that is kind of relevant and interesting, right? So we had a naked point of control here below. We took that a couple of days ago. I pointed that out to you guys on Wednesday. Then we left another naked point of control here around about 29,500. We came down and took that as well, right, just last night, just a few hours ago, if you like. And now we're back inside of this little range here, just around $30,000. Okay, so in terms of naked points of control, there is nothing up there, okay, other than way past resistance at around about 34,500. So, but nothing above this range here that are sort of really visible on the naked points of control on the volume profile. However, there's that naked point of control at 27,500 that sticks out like a fucking sore thumb, okay, especially as it is below all of these guys, all of these stops here. So potentially to the downside, I think this is an interesting point, and that's the one I was talking about when I was saying about the candles, right? So that's one thing as well. You can see here on the CVD that is pretty much flat. Okay, the cumulative volume delta is pretty much flat, and yet there's a divergence here where the price has kind of been moving up. Okay, so it's not taking much in the way of buying to push the price up, even though the CVD is kind of going sideways. So perhaps this could signal a little bit of absorption on the long run. Okay, these are a little bit, they tend to play out on the shorter time frames, not so much on the long time frames, but it's an observation nonetheless. Okay, so this would kind of suggest that it's a little bit bullish. Okay, so that's the volume profile. Let's have a look at the daily profile. And the daily market profile, and this is volume based again. Okay, you can see again that we took out this naked point of control here, right? We haven't taken, actually we did take this one. This is basically just a VWAP close that it's failing to show. Perhaps if I change the tick size that would disappear, but I'm not going to mess around with that right now. But basically this here has been taken, okay? But there's that naked point of control down here, 27,000, 27,500. That is an area of interest in my personal opinion, okay? As far as the more recent price action, right? We still have an anchored VWAP here from the highs of around about 45k, okay? So it's all the way from up there. From this swing high here, around about 40k, right? And that's been acting as resistance, resistance, and so that's basically the edge, if you like, of what I'm seeing as resistance, right? I'll just put the volume profile there as well on the right as well. You can see that it's basically right on the edge of this composite of the volume profile, okay, the combination of all of this for the last 4 months or last 3 months or whatever. Okay, so this is resistance. Combined with that, you can see that we've got a poor high here. This is a little bit of an excess, but there's another poor high here, okay, and poor highs here, and there's an excess on these last 2 profiles, but you can see that there's a few anomalies above us, okay. So if we do go higher and take out all of that sort of like liquidity above, 32,200 basically is round about the level of resistance that I'll be looking for. You know, the make or break, if you like, the line in the sand. Potentially we could go all the way up there and come back down again. That's why that's the line in the sand, okay? A closer observation of what I showed you here, basically this here is a combination of various profiles that I've merged, and you can see that I've got a value area high and a value area low. This is a 4-day composite value area, okay? And we're basically back inside of it, okay? Here you could see that we were above it, and the value area lows of these 2 profiles of the 2 previous days have stayed above that balance, right? But we left some poor lows below and a naked point of control. And today what happens, or last night if you like, it comes down and tests that point of control, bounces off the composite value area low, and here we are testing the top side, okay? So can we get out of this area here above $30,000? If we do, then I think we've got a good chance of testing that 32k. If we don't, then I think we're going to go much lower, okay? At least to the bottom of this, which is around about 29,500 and potentially lower. Note as well that this naked point of control had a little bit of confluence with these trapped guys here. So you can see here on the delta, you can see that these guys here were trapped short, okay? The price rallied from there, and as soon as the price comes back down, they can't wait to get out of break even. That's why it caused support, right? On the similar hand, you will notice that we've got some trapped longs up here, even though that got retapped, but we've also got some significant volume delta here, and these guys are trapped long, okay? And that's around about 30,500, okay? So anybody that's long up there, if the price comes all the way back up here, okay, this is likely to be resistance, right about 30,500. And if we break higher with a little bit of volume, there's still these guys here as well, right? So around about 32,000, or 30, yeah, around about 31,500, something like that. Okay, so again, so these are levels of resistance. These guys are trapped long, so they want to get out of break even. These guys were trapped short, so they just got out of break even. So let's wait and see what happens here. We're basically back inside of a balance area, 3-day, 4-day composite, if you like. So we got some boundaries here between 29,500 and $30,000. Okay, so let's just see if we can break above it and out of this balance, or if we stay below it. Okay, I could merge these 2 profiles here, and this gives you yet another balance area, right, and puts the value area high around about 30,500. I suppose we could do that. It's a nice little profile here, and perfectly shaped, okay, as a bell shape. So I hope this makes any sense to you guys, but we're just looking at balances and imbalances, right? 32k is still resistance. In terms of support, I'm looking at around about 28,500, 28,400, something like that. as a potential level for a bounce, but with enough volatility we could potentially see a wick all the way down to 27,000, 27,500. Either way, at these lows down here, I want to see a very quick wick back to the upside. Okay, if we hang around here too much, then I think that we're going to go much lower. Okay, so that's basically the long and the short of it. Nothing really much more to say. Let's have a look at the sessions. On the sessions here, I think this is an old, where is this from? Yeah, so I basically had like 6 profiles here, 6 sessions that form the balance area above here. We've also got a naked point of control from the New York session from way back on the 31st of May. That's the naked point of control. It's not been tapped, and it has perfect confluence with that same VWAP. Again, right about $32,000. Okay, we've also got a few naked points of control above us at $30,500 and $31,000. So 32.5, 31, and $32,000 as naked points of control to the upside. Okay, and then we've got this one has been tapped already. We've got that naked point of control at it's also a session one, right about 28,600, and we've got the other one a little bit lower, way down here at 27,000. But that's kind of overcomplicating it too much. I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. Could go up, could go down, absolutely, but I've just given you the levels so that you know what to do at those levels. Okay, if it goes lower, then I want to buy, but there's basically a invalidation, which is kind of below $27,000. And at 32k I want to short, but there's the invalidation if we break above that and confirm it as support. So it's quite simple, really. All right, so with all that said, like, you know, keep an eye on this one here, right? Okay, so on the lower time frames, this could potentially be a little turning point, and if it is a turning point to the upside, then happy days. I think we've got a very good chance to going at least to 35,000, 36,500, something like that. Okay, so with that all out of the way, let's move on to Ethereum, and we start with Ethereum USD. So we're looking at the 3-day chart here, and basically we're more or less at the same sort of situation as Bitcoin. Okay, we're at the second standard deviation here of the developing years VWAP, and it's also, if you'll notice, the value area low of the 2021 VWAP close. Okay, that's the value area high there, that's the VWAP, and that's the 2021. So that's the confluent level there. All right, so we're staying above this level here for now, and it's confirming a support, $1,734, and it's you know, it's been tested so many times now. So if we do see a breakdown to the downside, we could potentially see the price come down to, let's have a look at the lower time frames here. Okay, as you can see here, it's been tested so many times now. Right, there's plenty of stops there. So if we see some volatility to the downside, I do expect all of these to be taken down. Right, so let me just go back onto this and put those tools and put the balance tools again. Like I said to you guys before, take the VWAPs off. Right, these are basically rectangles that are just highlighting where these volume clusters are, the edges of the volume clusters. Okay, so we're basically still below resistance here. Okay, and we're basically inside of this balance here on the purple rectangle. All right, so the support level for that is around about $1,500. Okay, the resistance for that is around about $2,000, $2,100, something like that. All right, so at the moment we're just kind of like stuck at this point of control here on the high volume node. And you can see basically the high volume node is growing as we spend so much time down here, right? This is an important level of support, as you can see from previous times, right? But it's been tested so many times, at some point it's going to break. All right, so I wouldn't hold this support as something like really significant. It is significant, but it will break eventually, right? So will it break to the downside? If it does, then you know that $1,500 is the next level of support. If it breaks to the upside, then you know that $2,000, $2,100 is still an important level of resistance. Break below this level here and fail to reclaim it, well, meaning if this level, previous level of support, turns to resistance, then I think we're going to go much lower, and we could potentially see $1,000 per Ethereum. Okay, if however we break to the upside, Okay, this is still a short position unless we reclaim this imbalance here round about what is that, around about $2,050. If we can confirm this as support, then I think we've got a very good chance to going all the way up to $2,800. So we'll just have to wait and see what the momentum shows us, what the charts tell us. Okay, either way there's potential volatility coming, and if there is no volatility, guess what, we're just going to stay within the fucking range that we have been for so long, right? On Ethereum, the range has just kind of been, you know, look at this, right? We've got a big bounce here, and the bounce is losing momentum, right? Eventually this will break and we'll go straight through it, all right, if it carries on like this. That's basically what I'm seeing here, right? But in terms of a range, you could argue that this is a range here, all right, just like that. So let me just take those areas of balance off. In fact, no, I can leave them on. Pretty sure I had a fixed range profile. Oh yeah, I had a couple of range profiles there, look. So we had two areas of balance on Ethereum, right? One was here when we've lost that first level between the two rectangles at the imbalance area, right? When we've lost that $2,000 level, okay? We were ranging just below that level of resistance, but we got rejected many, many times from the previous balance above, right? So as a result, we break down, okay? When we break down, we form yet another range. We retest the previous range here of balance, but we got rejected. Okay, and here we are again retesting that area here of balance, and yet we got rejected. Okay, so we've got two little balance areas there. We could split this. Let me just make this as a range in EQ kind of level, and you can see here now, right, that overall this is a range high, this here is the range low, and the middle is just the EQ, equilibrium, right? We've tested it a couple of times here. You can see this lines up perfectly with the previous level of support, and we confirm that that is resistance. So right now, just to simplify this, right now we've got two little ranges here. Got range here, we've got a range here. So can we break above 1940? If we break above 1940, 1950 or something like that, there's a strong possibility that we go and retest the range highs and potentially the range low of the previous balance. If we cannot break above that, okay, and we could carry on here rotating between 1700 and 1940, then so be it, all right? However, if we break down from here, like I said, we want to see a strong bounce and reclaim of this range, okay? If we reclaim this range, then we continue range bound and potentially even go higher. However, if we go down like this, confirm that this is now resistance, right? It will happen the same as what happened here. Confirm that as resistance, it goes lower, okay? And so we'll be looking at this range here, down, much bit lower, okay? A little bit lower. So we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. But I think that maybe doing it like this, you guys can get a pretty good idea of where we are in terms of ranges, right? So again, 1940 is resistance, 1950, something like that, and $1,700 is support at the moment, okay? Break above it, then we could see the much higher prices of $2,000. And if we do break higher like that, then 1950 could potentially become support right about this equilibrium area, okay, the 0.5 of the range. So that's all I've got here on the shorter, sort of like on the shorter time frame for Ethereum USD. Let's have a look at Exocharts and see if we can find any confluence in terms of volume profile. Okay, so we've taken a couple of naked points of control from below here. The next naked point of control is around about $1,600. Okay, note how many stops do you think it will be that there'll be down there? And anybody that is long Ethereum below $1,700, lots of stops. So this could potentially get a revisit here. Okay, and then if the prices come all the way down here, it could wick all the way to that naked point of control at 1619 and bounce from there. And again, the key level is basically regaining this range again, right? Acceptance back inside of this volume cluster here. Okay, so potentially doing something like this and then reclaiming that. All right, if it reclaims it, then great. Then we could potentially see higher, but we've still got plenty of resistance above $1,800. You can see here the low volume node. If the price does travel up, it will travel up very quickly and very violently, and we've got a naked point of control again around about $2,050. That's a key level. Okay, break above that, and I think we've got potentially room to move higher, but that's still resistance until proven otherwise. This here is support, but I wouldn't trust it as support anymore, because like I said, there's plenty of stops that will cause cascading liquidations to the downside. Okay, and I would expect this level here around about $1,600 to be the level that we bounce at, if you like. Okay, does it mean that it's going to be a generation bottom here? Well, no. Like I said, we could find resistance back at this range low. All right, so just be careful. Don't enter your full position at these lows. Okay, just enter partially, and if the price breaks back above and continues higher, then great, you can add to your long, but I would be very careful at these levels. Okay, so that's basically what I've got here on the volume profile. So like I said, $2,050 there's a naked point of control, $1,620 there's another naked point of control there as well. Okay, so in terms of the market profile for the day, this one has not been very accurate. Again, Ethereum is just kind of following what Bitcoin does, so it's really difficult to assess. You know, there's plenty of levels that get left behind, plenty of anomalies left behind that do not get corrected. So I think this is a little bit useless. But you can see here that basically where the range is, and we've just kind of been moving back and forth inside of that range. And there's not really much else to be said about that. I do not trust this naked point of control here on the time-based market profile here on Ethereum, because like I said, we're being dragged around by Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes down, Ethereum goes down. Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up. So basically that's all I've got for Ethereum versus USD. Let's move on to Ethereum versus BTC. So we start here on the 3-day chart, and we can take the VWAPs off for just a second just to make it a little bit clearer. You can see that basically we're still kind of way below it, continuing lower within this high volume cluster, low volume cluster I mean, right? You can see here all of this low volume here, right? So this is a large liquid move to the upside. We've broken basically market structure. So where could we see this going? Well, these large liquid moves tend to get filled, right? This is a large liquid move. Guess what happens? It gets filled back up again, right? You can see that almost in every single time frame. Large liquid move here gets retraced, right? Large liquid move gets retraced. Liquid move gets retraced. This illiquid move gets retraced. Okay, same with this one. Price is always revisiting previous areas of liquidity. Okay, this one has not been revisited. Okay, so I'll be looking potentially at this breaking down a little bit lower and going at least to around about this area here, right, around about 40,000 sats. Okay, it doesn't look like it wants to retest this previous level here. This previous level was an interesting level and a very important level of resistance, but we're not even doing that. We don't have enough strength on Ethereum to be doing that. So if this carries on down, you can bet your bottom dollar that this whole thing gets retraced. Okay, and as my friend Cyborg would say, and his name is Cyborg PsyOps, and he's in the group as well, this is called reflexivity. Okay, so we print a high there, take out all of that liquidity, print a lower high here, a little bit like the Quasimodo setup, right? And then boom, we break down. Okay, and then we'll go looking at liquidity by taking out the previous inefficient moves. Okay, so reflexivity says that we go at least to around about this level here. So that's basically how it should play out. All right, so in terms of resistance and support, resistance levels first. You can see that big red line there is basically where the inflection point is at. If I put the VWAPs back on, that's the year's VWAP, the developing year's VWAP there. It's also the value area high of the 2021 VWAP. As you can see that there, right? This is a previous level of support as well. We were kind of above that. Once we broke that market structure, that's inevitably going to be resistance. Okay, at the moment it does look like we're on our way to this level here. Okay, and if I put the levels of support, I've already highlighted it there, but there's not really much support, and there's a very low volume area here all the way back down to this level here, right, to around about 44,000 sats and potentially even 35,000 sats. Okay, so if I take that level of support off, you can see that this level here is also a level of interest, right, which is the 2021 value area low. Okay, so if I put level of support, I've already got a line there as well. So we'll have to wait and see. This would pretty much confirm that reflexivity theory, where we would retrace this whole move, this largely inefficient move, and we retrace it all the way back down here, right about 40,000, 35,000 sats. All right, so that's basically what I'm saying for Ethereum on a higher time frame. Okay, on the lower time frame, there's not really much to be said. Okay, there's plenty of, like, you know, low highs, lower lows. That's basically what I'm seeing here, right? We've just lost the value area low of the developing months VWAP, right? On the quarterly, we're basically back inside and below the value area low of this one here, right? So we could potentially see, you know, price going a little bit lower. Volatility is going to be to the downside without a shadow of a doubt, okay, unless we see some very, very bullish moves on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, but even if Bitcoin decides to pump and if Ethereum is lagging behind, we'll see Ethereum just going sideways in this chart, because this is the ETH BTC chart. Okay, here on the 1 hour chart, on the ETH BTC chart, you can see that basically, just take that, we've got this level here, right, which is the previous level of support. You can see that the price wicked to the downside and it got bought up straight away, right? And so potentially this level here, 58,000 sats, could be a level of support again. So we could do something like this and then just carry on moving up. But we'll have to wait and see. This is not, you know, I like to look at the higher time frames just to sort of like weigh up the balance out the potential scenarios, okay? And like I said, you know, this is a large liquid move. They tend to get retraced and almost every single time, right? Look at here, gets retraced. Okay, this one got retraced at least halfway. This one got retraced all the way down to correct this inefficiency here, right? This whole move to the upside got pretty much retraced. Okay, this one here has not been retraced. Okay, largely good move. So if we do see a bounce, we could potentially find ourselves all the way up there. So there's potential for the upside, potential to the downside. But looking at all of the technical details here in terms of volume and how close we are to this large liquid move, I think we're going to test lower first. Okay, anything can happen, but this here is an important level of support, and this here is an important level of support. And in terms of resistance, this here is the most significant level of resistance on this chart, right? Break above that and I think we've got a very good chance to going higher, but until then, this is resistance until proven otherwise. Okay, so that's the ETH BTC chart. There's nothing much else to add about that. So we move on to the DeFi coins in the lending markets. Basically, these are all the lending pairs, the trading pairs that are available on FODL. So looking at the 24-hour chart, like I said to you guys on Wednesday, I think it was the last TA update that I've done. This level here is support, and we have been holding that support really, really well, and it continues to be support until proven otherwise. Okay, so I'll delete this. I think the range that we want to be looking at is this range here. So this is support, this here is resistance, and we just tried sideways. I also highlighted, if you guys weren't here last time, that if we do break above this level of resistance, then again, larger liquid move there to the upside. I think we've got a very good chance of traveling very, very quickly, a very, you know, very violent move to the upside to this significant level of resistance at around about 13 cents. Okay, so at the moment support is around about 6 cents. We've got a little level of resistance around about 7 cents, 7 or 8 cents, and if we break above that, it's going to be a very large move all the way up to there. Okay, these are kind of like 10 cents is a big round number, so it could potentially be resistance there as well, right? Around about 10 cents there. I'll delete that one. So this level here could cause resistance as it is 10 cents, and there's a possibility that people take profit at this level, but you can see this is largely a liquid and there's hardly any volume there. So if we see a pump, it'll be a massive pump in my opinion, from observation, right? But you can see here this is a previous level of support, this level here, previous level of support, and therefore it should be resistance when we get back up to it. Okay, so that's FODL versus Tether. So FODL USDT on OkEx. Let's move on to FODL USDC on SushiSwap. And very much the same scenario, we are at support until proven otherwise, right? Around about 6 cents, 5 cents, something like that. It's actually 6 cents. So next level of resistance should be this one here, right about 7 cents. However, like I said, there's hardly any, there's a little bit of price action there, like that. And these levels of support are just based on big round numbers because there's no previous price action, no frame of reference. So therefore, I do think that the most significant level of resistance is this one up here, right? Which is basically where we consolidated a little bit before this largely illiquid move that we see here to the upside, right? So we could potentially just be ranging inside of this here, right? This is resistance, this here is support, right? There is a little intermediate line there where basically we've kind of rotated and failed to get back above. So this could also be resistance, but overall I'm looking at this as the range here, right? Break above this one and you can see that this is basically nothing there, right? Hardly any volume there. So we'd be very quick to get up to 14 cents, just like we observed on the Tether chart, all right? So that's basically what I've got right now for FODL versus USDC. Yeah, we're range bound until proven otherwise. Moving on to FODL versus ETH. FODL wrapped ETH. Okay, we're still below the, let me just correct something a little bit. Okay, I'm going to take the second standard deviation of these VWAPs. Okay, so we are still below this intermediate line here. Okay, so this is resistance until proven otherwise. In fact, it should be in red. Let me put that as red. Okay, this is resistance until proven otherwise. If we break above that, then this here will be the next range. However, like I said, this level here should be a significant level of resistance. Okay, I'm going to delete some of these lines because they're just left from when I do explanations on previous streams, right? So two very clear ranges. This is a major level of support here, right? This is a major level of resistance. As you can see here, is previous level of support here. We bounced there once, okay? So, but overall, you could subdivide this big thing into two little ranges, okay? So I think for now, this here is resistance, and this here is support, okay? That's how I see it playing right now. That's why we've got these two little arrows there to define where the support and resistance levels are, where the range is, okay? So moving on to BNB USD. This is the Binance coin versus US dollar. Let me just delete that little scribble there. So you can see we're just sitting right at the bottom of this range here, okay? So it's holding up really well at around about $288, okay? So if the price manages to go up from here, this is a significant level of resistance, right about $327, potentially even $300, because that would be a nice big round number, right? So $300, as you can see here on the shorter time frame, right? $300 was defended here, and here, previous level of support, and this is now being confirmed as resistance, right? You can see that everybody's buying here, right? So if we break above $300, right, then you can see that this is a higher volume cluster. The next level of resistance will be round about here, right, round about $330, okay? And we'd continue to range inside of this. All right, so let me just delete some of those last scribbles there, right? So we continue to range inside of here, right? Break above it, and I think the next level of resistance will be the yearly VWAP, okay? You can see that the level of resistance that we've got right above us is the value area low of the developing years VWAP. If we break below from here, then I think the next level of resistance support will be around about $250, potentially a bit lower at $235, okay? 250 just because it's a big round number, but 235 because, as you can see here, it's a previous level of support, okay? It's been tapped many times, all right? So that's potentially what we're seeing here. In fact, you could argue that $200 is the real level of support here. Yeah, round about there, which is basically where we bounced, right? So let's just do that, actually. I'll make that a little bit more generous. Okay, so we're kind of standing on the edge of a cliff here, because as you can see here, there's tapering volume to the downside. So if the price does accelerate to the downside, like I said, $200, $205, $10 could be the next level of support. Okay. Of course, we might see bounces in between. You're going to look at big round numbers such as 250, right? 250, 240, 220, and so on. But ultimately, $200 will be the next level of resistance, support, and $290, $300 is the next level of resistance. All right, so that's on Binance versus USD. Moving on to Binance versus BTC. We've bounced on the lows of this range here. As you can see, I highlighted the range there. We bounced on the lows of that, and we're on our way back to the middle of the range, which is basically where the yearly VWAP is. Right, I highlighted that there. Right, that's that little blue line. As you can see there, that's perfect, you know, not perfect, but very close to the equilibrium of this range, right? So this is resistance until proven otherwise. All right, so ultimately we've got a little mini range potentially happening here. And if we break above it, then you can draw another little range just above it, like this, okay, where previous resistance turns to support. All right, but overall, this is just one big range. You can see that there's a discrepancy in volume here. There's a low volume area right in the middle. So that could potentially be resistance. In fact, that's where we're struggling right now, as you can see here from this crosshair line. And that's basically where we are right now, around about 9,650 sats. Okay, so let's see if we can break above it. If we do break above it, I think this level here is still potentially a significant level of resistance. But you can see here from the previous range, right? Support, support, support. We went to the top of the range. Here we broke completely below it. Didn't respect it here, but we confirmed it here, support, support, and now we've broken down from it. So where do I expect to be resistance? At previous level of support, right there, right? So just have to keep that 0.5, that equilibrium area in mind, okay? Even though this is a bigger range, you could look at that middle line as potential resistance as well, okay? So that's Binance versus BTC. Of course, if we break below it, then this is the next level of support. And if we break above it, then we enter this balance area here, where this here is resistance. But if we break above it convincingly, something like this, then we could potentially go all the way up to the top there, around about 11,600 sats. But we've tried that and we deviated above here and we fell back inside of the range. So there's not much chance of that happening for now. This is resistance, this is support. Concentrate on this high volume cluster. This is resistance, this is support, the whole range, okay? And it could be subdivided into two with these two little ranges inside. Binance versus ETH, very much the same kind of scenario. We've confirmed that this is indeed resistance. This down here should be support. So we've got a little big arrow here with potential range to be formed there, okay? Break above that, then the next level of resistance will be way up here. And we confirmed that this resistance has now turned to support, okay? And so therefore we've formed a new range up there. That's, you know, far-fetched. Realistically, we're still inside of here, and this level here should act as resistance. This level here should act as support, and breaking down from that, then I think the edge of this rectangle here will be support, and we'll be rotating inside of this range here. Okay, so round about like this, somewhere, right? But for now, this is the range that you would be interested in. That's this range here, all right? So we're going to be trading this 0.16 as resistance, 0.14 as support. AAVE versus USD, we're testing these levels here as potential support here. All right, I've been quite generous and I've moved this around a little bit already, but you can see this previous consolidation here and it acted as support. So I'll move this slightly lower like this, okay, and just see if we respect this level here. This could be potential level of support here, okay? If we bounce here, then obviously that confirms that this range is in play inside the purple rectangle, and so that would be support, that would be resistance there. Break above it, this is the next level of resistance. Break below it, this is the next level of support, way down here, okay? That's basically how we're playing it right now. At the moment, we're at $93, okay? So we've lost that $100 level, and $93 is acting as support right now. But like I said, if we break down below that, then we can see it as low as $70 to $66, something like that. AAVE versus BTC, we've definitely lost this area of balance. So I'm just going to delete this rectangle here. And in fact, I'm going to delete some of these ranges here, and let's just redraw and do the whole thing again. Okay, so let's just redraw that rectangle. Okay, so next level of support is way down here, next level of resistance is way up there. This one here we've just lost, so I'm going to put it as orange just in case we decide to go back over it again. It doesn't get respected, right? But you can see from a higher time frames, when you zoom out, you can see this a lot clearer. And so this here could potentially be a new range, right? But if we, however, confirm the level we're at as support, then, you know, if we reclaim this like this, then I think we've got a good chance of going all the way up there to the yearly VWAP. But it does look like it wants to break down and retrace this whole thing. So, you know, this is potentially a range down here. If we break back above this one, then the next resistance will be there and the previous resistance will turn to support. Okay, break down below that, and I think we're in real trouble. And I think the next level of resistance, sorry, the next level of support will be the 2020 VWAP close, which is way down here, right? Which is way down here. So it'll be this range. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But for now, it does look like it wants to visit lower. Excuse me. Moving on to AAVE versus ETH, we've lost that previous level of support, which was the yearly VWAP, right? And as such, I think there's no point of having this range here highlighted. Okay, so I think the significant range is this here, okay, down here. And I think that this level is now resistance, where that knot is, okay? So this is resistance, this down here is support until proven otherwise, okay? So we could just be trading like that, right? Please note that there is a low volume node here, right? So we could actually, even if we come all the way down here, we could just bounce just below the lows of that, all right? But you can see here, this previous level of support, this was a deviation to the downside when we broke above it, confirmed that as support, okay? And that's why that line is there, all right? So just wanted to be clear why the line's down there and not at the low volume area, and that's why, basically. So yeah, this is the range, basically. Resistance, this is support until proven otherwise. If we break above it, then this is the next level of resistance. If we break below it, we've got a few levels of interest way down here, and you want to look at 420, yeah, 420, 400, and 360 as levels of support. Okay, that's AAVE versus ETH. Fuck me, I can't get my words out. AAVE versus ETH. So moving on to compound versus USDT. Compound USD, we are kind of stuck inside of this range. We've confirmed the top of the range as being resistance. Now we need to confirm the bottom of the range to be a support. We've just lost this midline here, so I'm going to put that as orange. Okay, let's see if we can reclaim that. If we can reclaim that, then I think we could be forming a range just at the highs here like this, right? However, if we confirm this indeed resistance here, then we could be forming the range way down here. All right. Overall is a big balance area, and again derived from volume, but it does look like it wants to hold here as support. So we could perhaps split that into two. But I just want to keep it sort of like simple. And overall, I think we've got. Let's have a look. We're definitely at all-time lows, so I'm looking at big round numbers. That's why I've got some lines there. Okay, so at the moment we've lost a $55 mark, and as such I think $50 could be potentially the next level of support. All right, we've lost 55. Okay, so $60 as resistance, $50 as support, and 55, which is the mid-range, is basically like we're kind of like rotating inside it. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Okay, will we have a mini range between 55 and 60? Something like this. I don't know why it's playing up. My mouse is playing up, right? So are we going to have a range here? I'm going to give up with the arrows. We're going to have a range here, or are we going to have a range here? We'll have to wait and see how it plays out, okay? But overall, I do think that between 50 and 60 is the most logical range. Compound versus BTC. And again, this is resistance above here. This is support way down here, around about 150 sats, 200 sats as resistance, 150 as support, and I think we rotate between this range now, okay? That's it, basically. If we move up, then I think the next level of resistance will be here, which is the previous level of support. If we break down, then I think we'll be looking at 100 sats as the next level of support. Compound versus ETH, very much the same thing. We're still inside of this range. We're getting very close to the lows here, so this could potentially be a decent play for the upside, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, if you look at the chart on a higher time frame like this, it's just lower highs, lower lows. It's just relentless. So we could potentially just carry on going down. However, if we see a bounce, now you know where the resistance is, okay? Moving on to BAT versus USD. This is basic attention token. And still inside of this range. Are we compressing, right? So the triangle traders would love to be, will probably be screaming out that this is a long, this is going to explode or whatever. Don't believe that, all right? This is, it's continuation, lower highs, lower lows. Yes, we're going sideways, but basically you just trade the range, right? At these highs is resistance, at these lows is support until proven otherwise. Break above this, then I think we got a very good chance to going all the way up to this level here as the next level of resistance, right? But if we break down, then you know where the next levels of support are. And I'm looking basically at big round numbers again, right about 30, 25, and then 20 sats as the next levels, okay? Very much the same scenario here on BAT versus Bitcoin, and you can see that we're basically just going sideways inside of the range, and the range is determined by this arrow and purple rectangle. So just sideways price action here on BAT versus BTC. BAT versus ETH, we're seeing that BAT is outperforming Bitcoin Ethereum ever so slightly, okay? There is a low kind of imbalance area here that we're kind of still struggling to get above. Let me just lead some of these lines to attempt to make this a little bit easier to understand. Right, so this is an imbalance here with two low volume areas inside of the distribution. So this is acting as resistance at the moment. And as such, you should consider this here as being the range, right? If we break above this, then I think this could potentially be the next range up here. Okay, so somewhere like that. If we break above that, then of course we'll be looking at this and this as potentially the next levels of resistance, but we're nowhere near there. Let's try and get over this little bump here first. Okay, previous level of support is confirmed here as resistance and again as resistance. However, if we're hovering here at resistance and the price is not getting rejected, eventually it will break to the upside. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Moving on to Link USD on Coinbase. So potentially this here could be now a level of support. So I'm going to put that as orange. Okay, we broke above it and we're now on our way down to confirm it. Could be support, right? Let me just delete this line here. This is potentially a range that I was seeing here. All right, but if we bounce here, then I think we've got a very good chance to going even higher than this. Actually, I think we could go as high as the top of the range there, right, and potentially put even a range here. I don't know why that red line has moved slightly. Okay, if we can break above this level here, I think we've got the potential to going all the way back up to the edge of the balance area here, which, as you can see, this is previous support. We broke down, confirmed this as resistance, so that's significant resistance way up here. All right, but in the meantime, we're just kind of like, we pushed out of this little range here and we're gaining momentum to the upside, so we could potentially see constructive price action all the way up. However, when we get to this level here, I'll be very careful. That's around about $12. Okay, yeah, and obviously this level here now has to hold as support. Okay, so even if we kind of like had a little volatility and come all the way back here, don't despair. It doesn't mean it's going to go back to new lows, especially if it bounces here and starts curling up. Then that's confirmed a shift in market structure. Okay, and we can continue with the constructive price action. All right, so for now, that's what I'm seeing here on Link versus USD. Moving on to Link versus BTC. See if we can find any clues. Link looking very strong versus Bitcoin. Nice little pump on Link. Okay, so this is the previous level of support here. As you can see here, previous level of support. It's going to be very difficult to get straight through that on the first attempt. Okay, no matter how bullish it looks, this here is resistance until proven otherwise. All right, so resistance, previous level of resistance is now turned to support. So I expect, just like I show you here with a little arrow, this to be the next range now. Okay, break above that. However, if we start hovering like this, we break above that, this here is the next level of resistance. Okay, and that means that we regain this little range here. But at the moment, I do expect the price to just be a little bit more volatile and just kind of like rotate sideways here. All right, so we'll have to wait and see. Break back above the previous level of resistance, and that means we're stuck back inside of this range below. Okay, and we'll be trading down here. But at the moment, it does look like it wants to reach for this level here. Link versus ETH, looking a lot stronger than Ethereum, and it's basically broke out of this, just broken out of this balance area. Okay, so what I've shown you guys here is this is a high volume cluster here, right? We came down, we didn't quite test the lows of that. We came very close, but we didn't quite test the lows. We bounced there, and here we are back at resistance again. Right? And a closer look at this. Shows, look at this. Support, 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 support. Here we are back in again. We've tested this previous level of resistance here, right, which is right on the edge, just above the yearly VWAP, right, which is previous resistance here. Confirm that that is indeed resistance, and now we're kind of just seeing where we're going to go. How low are we going to go, right? So let's have a closer look at this. So what we want to see is this level here. Well, that's above it. Is this level here going to hold as support? Okay, to be fair, I don't think, there's not a lot there, right? I think the next level of support is actually way down here. As you can see, previous support, we broke down, smashed straight through that. This could potentially be the next level of support. This down here could also be a level of support. As you can see, the candle here on the 4 hour, perhaps on the 6 hour would have shown, right, resistance, and it confirmed here as support for the lower time frames, and we're bouncing there. So we'll have to wait and see, but we've got a yearly VWAP right in the way there, right, and there's large liquid moves to the downside, so we'll have to wait and see. Large liquid moves do tend to get retraced, right? So on a daily time frame, as you can see here, that would bring us all the way back down to around about 4,400 way. Okay, so that would pretty much clear out all of this large and efficient move to the upside. All right, but this is resistance until proven otherwise. So this could potentially be a really good short entry at the moment. Okay, so I would look at that yearly VWAP as the short entry, and I'll be targeting at least these levels down here, potentially even lower. Okay, of course I could be completely wrong, and if we break above this and start hovering at this, so doing something like this, right, then we're hovering at resistance, and as such eventually we'll break above it. All right, so let's just see how much strength there is on Link. Okay, so Link looking very strong compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, so that's one to keep an eye on for sure. Okay, it's a great opportunity for a short because we've already pumped, but it's also potentially a really good bet because it's an outlier, right? When everything else is going down, this one is pumping, so there must be a reason for that. And this is important because if Bitcoin and Ethereum starts going up, then I think Link versus USD will eventually go up as well and get dragged up with Bitcoin because it's an outlier, right? So It's important to keep an eye on coins that are doing really well when everything else is doing crap. So keep an eye on Link. Uni versus USD. Okay, Uni USD basically just going sideways. Okay, we're trading inside of this range. This is the range high, this is the range low, and we just trade sideways until we broke to either side. If we break to the downside, this is $3 is basically the price that I'm looking at for Link, for Uni, sorry. And if we break to the upside, then $8 is the next level of resistance that I'm seeing for Uni versus USD. But in the meantime, just rotating sideways until proven otherwise. Resistance at $6, support at around about $4.50. Uni versus BTC, again, we're hovering at support here. That's not usually a good sign. It is an opportunity to buy here at support, but we've tapped it so many times now. Eventually it'll break through it. Okay, if it does break through it, then we're looking at around about 1,300 sats as potentially the next level of support. If we do break to the upside, there's a little level here. Previous support is confirmed here. Let me just redraw that again. Right, previous level of support, confirmed it as resistance, deviated to the upside, came straight back below again, confirmed it as resistance. Okay, so this is resistance until proven otherwise. 1,800 sats. Okay, so 1,800 sats is resistance. If we break above that, then the next level will be right about here, 2,150 sats. Okay, previous level of support, confirm that as resistance. All right, and so we could be ranging this whole thing, because you can note here there's hardly any volume there, so the price move to the upside will be violent and will be very, very quick. Uni versus ETH, we're basically inside the range again. This is a previous level of support, although we didn't stay there very long. We stayed much longer here, right, for a whole 2 weeks or whatever. But here we stayed in here for a while. We confirmed that this would have been a range here, right? Resistance, previous level of support turned to resistance, boom, we break to the downside. Previous level of support breaks down. Have we confirmed that as resistance? Not yet. So this is still resistance until proven otherwise. Okay, and this should be support until proven otherwise. In fact, it has been tested already. All right, so as a result, I expect the price to just rotate sideways like this. If we break to the downside, then of course we'll be looking at this level here as support. If we break to the upside, then this level here as resistance. Okay, so I think that is it for all of the trading pairs on FODL. I hope this puts you on the right side of the market. I'm just going to have a look at Bitcoin and just see if we can see any volatility, and I think we are seeing some volatility to the upside. Nothing significant. Let's have a look at the 30-minute on the 1 hour chart. Okay, so we're basically back at $30,000. Okay, so we're just kind of like rotating a little bit up and a little bit down. So, you know, nothing interesting. This is basically just a calm before the storm. Like I said, there is going to be some volatility. So it really depends how volatile things will get, right? But just play it cool. Just, it's better to wait for confirmation. Okay, just to recap, break above 32k with conviction and confirm it as support. That means we're going to go higher. If we break below 27,500 like this and cannot reclaim that level again, then that means if we break below it and re-grab the level, then I think we've got a very good chance of going up. However, if we break below it and then confirm that this level here, 27,000, 28,000 is now resistance, then I think we're going to go much lower, and that's your entry for a short. Okay, so just wait for confirmation. Okay, this here will be your entry for a long. Okay, especially if the price goes up. All right, so anything in between is basically just a fake out, right? It's just we're still range bound, right? So at the highs here, I'm looking to short. At the lows here, I'm looking to long, okay? And basically just trading inside of the range. The outlying thing, like I said, is breaking above, confirming as resistance. Confirming resistance as support. Break down below, confirm that support is now resistance. We're going to go much lower, all right? The invalidation of those setups is exactly the opposite, and that would mean coming up here, going to the upside like that, and then coming back inside of the range. Well, that's a short position. And if we go to the downside like this, right, and fall back inside of the range, then this is a long position. All right, So I hope that helps you. I hope it puts you on the right side of the trades. Like I said, high volatility periods are a time to be careful, and you're much better off waiting until the dust settles and come back on Monday and see where we are, right? Because we're just on the verge of starting the weekend. So if you thought liquidity is bad, it's going to get worse because the weekend's coming as well. So with that, just trade smart, protect your capital, and I will have another TA update for you guys on Monday. In the meantime, take care and have a good weekend. Cheers. Bye-bye.